All right, today here we have Darthside with us. Darthside, welcome to the show.
Thanks, man. Great to be here.
Now, a lot of us know you and your battles on Twitter with Darth Talon. Was Zed Run your first introduction to NFTs?
Pretty much, it was within my first 2 weeks of discovering NFTs, and it was the first one that I was like, "Oh yeah, that's for me."
Okay. Now, Darth Talon's probably your most famous horse. Was he your first horse? I can't remember the
No,
chain of
no.
events.
She was quite a ways into my journey. When I say quite a ways, I've only been in the game for a few months, but uh, when I first got in, I of course bought a crap horse. Don't even remember the name. Realized I had a crap horse. Dove deep into the white paper. Uh, Grabbed a few Genesis females at that point. Was going to do it had a male, had two females. Was working on getting my third Genesis female, and then realized, okay, after reading the full white paper, that I wanted to go down the color breeding path. That I felt that I could find a little niche there as late to the game as I was arriving. That if I wanted a niche, there was still a couple of niches out there that could be occupied. And one of them was in the SuperCoat and slate and the super rare color breeding.
Yeah, I know you touched upon why you chose like the slate gray coloring on other shows, but can you kind of refresh everybody who might not be familiar?
Yeah, definitely. In their white paper, they discuss the color breeding algorithm, and Step Stables had put out a color calculator that you could put in the parents, and it would estimate the odds for the offspring's color. And when I got in deep into the math of that, I realized that slate gray, not only was it the most rare of the colors according to their data chart, the effect that the father had on the offspring was directly correlated to that rarity color group of the father, and that if you started at slate gray with the father, it didn't really matter what you added as the mother, you were going to end up with pretty much a 1% or better coat color uh, because of it, just the way their algorithm worked. And it's played true over all the breedings I've ever done in this game. With a slate gray stud, I've never had less than a 1% coat color as an offspring. And so there was definitely something there that, okay, well, even if my offspring are donkeys like everybody else, at least mine's a rare donkey. You know?
Right.
And maybe I can get 0.005 more, but that was my concept. So I dropped the Genesis females that I had and ended up getting a slate gray Genesis male, which I ended up losing in the hack. And but continued to just stack it on there. And so I was ready to step up from the Buterin level to the Finney level, and overpaid for a legendary Finney female that was slate gray UUU. Just bought her for breeding purposes solely of I'm moving up to the next level. And then they took away odds, or they said they were going to take away odds. One of the few times they gave us a decent little bit of notice before they did something.
Right.
And so I ran the hell out of her 30, 40 races a day before odds disappeared. But I raced all of my horses in a Jenny. I had never even planned on putting her in a Jenny. I didn't want her to show up as a bad horse and therefore not get to breed. But I had to know when they were taking odds away. I'm like, well, I've got to at least get one race on each of these people so I know where their odds were. And 2 days later, I came back and looked, and I was like, oh, wow, she got 6 odds in her Griffey. I might want to run her. I never expected to be a racing stable. My goal from the beginning was to be a color breeding stable. And so when I saw those, I at least need to try and run her. And she's a really good, $5-10 racer, and can win in class 2 with a little bit of regularity. Class 3, it's very frequent. And class 4, she's going to lose in her down class. So that was my first racer that really got me to understand the racing side of the game. I've tried a number of others since, and Slayer was one that I had that did a really good job at flaming, but nobody won like Darth Talon. And at that time, I was seeing Crimson Chin and Billions having a profile, and I was like, you know what? I don't have all that many people here to talk to on Zed yet. I'm gonna bring out my horse and give it a profile and talk to myself.
Yeah.
And
some of the conversations are quite entertaining too.
Well, that was the thing is I wanted to make it clear that my skin was thick enough I could take being picked on. I don't mind banter. My horse talks a lot of smack to me, and it just also worked out really well. Some of those first few times that I was talking as Darth Talon and complaining about things like not getting to race in Class 2.
Mm-hmm.
And so I would have a conversation with her and I'd throw her in Class 2. And I'd be doing all that in public and then saying, okay, well, here's your Class 2 race. You're in there with Mirajo, Princess of Power. Have fun, Yeah. and then she wins.
Yeah.
And so it became a lot more engaging at that point. It also gave me a way to have my horse interact and do things that really I didn't want going on under my primary account, which is still also professionally related. I still do a lot of mixed reality and virtual reality sharing through my primary account.
Yeah, that's one of the things that first made me notice the way you were kind of approaching things differently and kind of made me start paying attention was there's a lot of other horse profile accounts out, but you really seem to create personality with yours. It wasn't just, I'm sitting in a high stakes race, who's going to come race me, or, oh, I just won this big race. There was actually a character being developed. And that's, I feel, something that in the space people probably could learn from quite a bit because we do own some sort of, rights or potential rights to our assets. And creating a personality or a story is, I think, missing quite a bit.
I'm actually wondering if their latest TNC is going to affect any of that at all.
Yeah.
If because Darth Talon shills my art, does that violate them at all? I don't know.
Right.
And it's bad enough. Darth Talon is a trademark name by Disney, I'm sure. So, but I also own Darth Vader, Darth Sidious. So if they're coming after me, they're coming after me for both barrels. But it was a lot more fun. I didn't want to just have the horse be there for retweets or for, I'm entering a race or, there's a giveaway. Let me have an extra account to tag kind of stuff. It really wanted to be engaging and having a distinct personality separate from me because I'm a sweet and happy guy, but there's some times where I'd like to be a little mouthy. And so it again gave me that attitude to tell myself to F off.
It's always a fun way to do it. Now, what really drew you into Zed Run?
For me, again, I'm a gambler. I'm a degen. Okay. I love poker. And I also loved what seemed to be this aspect of I could make money as a breeding stable.
Mm-hmm.
The thought was if I had this niche, which I did have this early niche, that I would be able to create this income stream. And so to me, that was just really exciting. Now they've taken a lot of that away with some of the recent updates, the breeding fee updates and stuff like that. Between the class system, the point system, and the tournaments, I've been a little disenfranchised from Zed. They really kind of broke my stable and a lot of other small stables to the point where I had to step back from the game. I had to withdraw during the start of this tournament. I said, no, I'm done. This last breeding price update to me was just a slap in the face to every non-Genesis stable out there.
Yeah, it's definitely interesting how they kind of structured things.
One, we have an overpopulation, so they drop the breeding prices, which is going to kill the floor on the cheap horses. But two, the point. What's the point of having a legendary breeding pair in this current environment? If for $12 more you can breed with a Genesis stud instead of my legendary stud, why are you going to breed with my legendary stud?
Yeah,
and that really hurt my stable because I was a legendary breeding stable. I only have one Genesis horse, and it was a colt. So I was keeping it unwrapped.
Yeah,
I bought it. It had been raced, but it hadn't been bred. So I was like, "Ooh, I got a long-term investment piece."
Yeah,
Because I got genetics locked up here. But every other horse I had was legendary or better, and so there was no incentive for anybody to be breeding with me. I mean, I was even offering a refund of the entire breeding fee to 0.01 was all I was going to keep.
Yeah,
I had a slate gray Nakamoto, and I couldn't sell the covers on that when I'm giving that big of a refund.
right.
So at that point, I'm like, there's no chance. And then the tournaments are all structured for monsters. The first two tournaments, and I understand it completely doing it. That they've got these partnerships. They want to say, you don't invite Donkey Glue to the Kentucky Derby.
Right.
So I got no problem with that. But the fact that they took the paid races or the free race money away from small stables like quite a few of the people I interact with and gave that to the monsters was upsetting. And now they've taken away their cut from the paid races. Great, but you didn't give back anything to the little guys, to the ones that are really trying to enjoy the game and get out there and grind with their Z38 or their Z47. There's really no racing environment for those people right now, and hasn't been for a month now.
When did you most enjoy the game of Zed Run? What state of Zed were you at your happiest?
So when I first came in, and I'd say it was before the first major Zed tournament.
Okay.
We had the zombie run tournaments going great. We had the pony plug tournaments going on. Things were structured to where you could downclass so that if you had a horse that was okay but couldn't compete against the likes of Darth Talon and Miraggio and stuff like that, you were still able to do some racing, to have some fun with it. Tournaments like the Glitch and stuff like that really gave other stables an aspect of possible winning. I really loved that side of it, and I'm bullish on the fact that they're going to figure this out. I truly believe that once we get custom racing in, that's going to bring a lot of people back.
Yeah,
me included. When you can have private tournaments, when you can have poker night with your buddies and everybody's racing their horses together while you're playing.
Mm-hmm.
Things like that are going to bring people back. I would just like to see them quit worrying about the Z1s and Z2s in the game and start doing maybe a Pacer Cross tournament or something along those lines, to where it's definitely targeting the lower end of the Zed spectrum to have some opportunity.
Did you see today's new tournament announcement yet?
Yeah, the pity point.
Yeah, how'd you feel about that one? Is that a step in the right direction, or is that just
I'd say it's a step in the right direction, and I'd say it's a direct influence from zombie racing.
I would agree.
I really am excited about the fact that they've embraced zombie and their tournament system, because it works better than anything they've thrown up yet. and I'm a big backer of the zombie racing tokens to begin with. I've been touting them from the start. Full disclosure, I drew a rainbow Zabo, and so I was all in right there. I'm like, wow, this is probably the most valuable NFT I own right here. And so I like what they've done there, but again, still, when you're talking about 192 for each of the two tournaments, you're looking at just barely over 1,000 horses. We have 150,000 horses in this game.
Right.
Why are you worried about huge rewards for your top 10 to 30 horses when you could be just like the zombie did the 100? You could have 10,000 horses qualify for your first round, and every one of them gets $100, as opposed to 77,000 going to 4 horses. And I know it's not quite that extreme, but
yeah, no, I understand.
That there are ways to definitely incentivize the smaller racing stables. An ELO system would be great, but we don't have that yet. We need to have something to help separate monsters like Darth Talon and the other ones that we don't have to worry about who's in the race when we enter the race.
Now, is racing the one thing that would bring you back, or is it breeding, or is it a combination of a few things that would have to happen to bring you back full time?
So if racing structure I would change, I would definitely need to come back and check that out to see if it was a stable environment that, not only Darth Talon could race in, but, Gray Jedi, who's a Buterin that isn't a major racer. But I'd love to have, I don't think she's ever won a race. If she has, she's won less than 5. I'd like to see her be able to have races that she could enter and have a chance at performing. Right now, there is no point to put her in any race when I know that she's going to end up against the monsters.
Right.
I'm not donating to the monsters.
Yeah, and it's funny. It's kind of been like a joke, when classes class down. It's just a donation pool at that point until they class back up. And I know personally, I've kind of felt that more since some of the more recent updates. So.
Yeah, I mean, since people brought out the horses for the first tournament, it was really when people started breeding and bringing out guys off the shelf for that first tournament. And I don't fault any of them for doing that.
Right.
And I understand why it made a more competitive environment. And I got no problem with that. I just hate how much the marketing is for all these monster tournaments when our ecosystem is a lot more than just 30 horses.
I think that's fair. Especially when you have so many.
And they could also, the change to breeding that needs to happen is Genesis need to be expensive.
Yeah.
You don't get to breed with, you don't get to go buy Secretariat sperm for a couple $1,000s. You're spending $5-10 million if you want a dose of that juice.
Yeah.
And that's the way it should be. If you, with the structure they have, there's so much value in Genesis males.
Now, do you think that's up to Zed to fix, or is that something the community should be thinking about and coming together and raising the price on their own?
So I believe that it should be a combination of both. I believe that the minimum fees should be structured to where making a Pacer Cross type level should cost about $25. It should be a shit price to make one of those. But if you want to get Genesis, you should be paying. It should be structured like that. And then if you want to pay, you want a good Genesis horse, a proven breeder, a proven racer, they should be tacking a premium on top of themselves. They shouldn't be saying, "Oh yeah, look, we've got 50 horses out there with breathless edge blood."
Yeah, one of the
not that breathless edge breeder, but breathless donkeys from what I've seen. But that's beside the point. It shouldn't be cheap to breed with those champions, those Genesis level horses. It should have a tier that really is a curve where it's super expensive to get those Genesis, and it comes down from there. And it incentivizes breeding low, that breeding towards that 268 as being easy to do. It makes the I'm just entering the game lottery ticket price really cheap. Yeah, going to be a lot of glue down there, tons of glue. But if they have a system that has a maiden or something like that built into it to where you're separating those losers from the monsters, well, then you can have some more transitional areas. To me, class shouldn't be based on the class points. It shouldn't be based on a winning percentage because all that's gameable.
Yeah.
You know, it needs to be much more focused on actual performance, actual wins, actual finishes.
Yeah, I've even debated with the idea of lifetime earnings, not
Yeah,
profits, but
I
earnings
agree
being
that
a more accurate way to distribute horse ability.
completely. I mean, Darth Talon just hit the 1 ETH winning mark.
Yeah.
She's won over an ETH now in races, only because of how many times I've explored different things and done different things with her. She's only got about 0.2 in profit, but
It's
I
still able to win a
after the
lot.
after the first tournament, I literally tanked from 100 class points to 0.
Yeah.
You know, and after this, after racing back up again before the second tournament, I tanked her again from class 2 to class 4. Only that was paid that I tanked her there. But
And that's
she's got a
expensive.
down. Yeah, she's got a down button though.
Yeah.
So I didn't let her get far into class 2, you know, because that's $5 a race to tank.
Mm-hmm.
And with the new declassing, that was meaning I was spending a minimum of $250 per class point to try and down class. Well, if you're racing a $5 race to get up there, and then you're spending $15 of your winnings just to reset from that win, you're winning what, maybe $10?
And that's if you win your
That's if you got
intentional
first.
win.
If you got actual first.
Right.
So there's enough things that are not really ironed out right now, but with Zed, I mean, I'm the biggest proponent of this game is 10-15% complete. We don't have different race types. We don't have like steeplechase. We don't have different surfaces, weather conditions, any of those kinds of things out there right now. So everybody says, "Oh, what's the beta for 3 years?" Well, yeah, beta for 3 years. They're still beta testing features that they haven't even introduced to us. So
games
I
take a long
understand
time to
that.
make.
Yeah.
Really
So
long time.
I have some horses that aren't going anywhere unless someone was to really come after Darth Talon, you know, with a couple of ETH offer.
Yeah.
Then I'd have to just accept that and shift my position because, you know, when I spent less than half an ETH to buy her, I would take that return. But I've got enough other projects that I'm willing to just sit back. You know, I still keep in touch. I was, you know, that tournament, they just announced the pity point today. I'm fully up on it. I've already done my reading for it. You know, I'm definitely not stepping away from the game. I've just stepped away from the racing side. I still leave all my studs in farm and still will cut a deal to anybody that reaches out to me and says, "Hey, I'd love to breed with one." Yeah, I'm still offering the deals for people so that they can have a chance to do it.
Yeah. No, that's good of you. I've always seen you give back in the community, so I'm happy you're not completely abandoning us. It's only a temporary leave of absence until things correct.
Yeah, I traded the other day. I traded the 2 Nakamotos that I had finally acquired. One of them was a slate gray. Neither was legendary though, so I wasn't too upset to move on from them. Traded both of them to someone for a Genesis male.
Oh, nice.
And they came back to me, and then the next day said I was quitting. And the person I traded with was like, "You're not dumping that Genesis, are you?" And I'm like, no fire sales. It's up there for an ETH. You know, it's a Z8 Buterin, but it's still up there for an ETH, and I wouldn't move any lower than that because I believe in the long term, and I believe in the Genesis factor long term with Zed. So while I might sell a Z7 Nakamoto, I'm not selling my Genesis because I do believe this has legs long term. It's just my pocketbook can't afford the growing pains.
Right.
And so, again, it was just like with the color reading. If I see a niche that I can zip in and be profitable, I'll be right there.
Now, do you make it a habit of kind of diving deep into anything that you're going to put your time, money, and energy into?
Yeah. Like not many people read into the details of the color breeding algorithm.
Yeah,
As
no,
soon as
I
I
I
saw
did
that,
a lot of
oh,
research,
it
but I
doesn't
never
affect
looked at that.
racing. Yeah, it doesn't affect
Yeah.
racing. I don't need to read that. But when I did, I realized, okay, SuperCoats have no value in racing. But the devs care enough about it not only to put it in the game, but to put it in the white paper, but to put it in the game and stick to it.
Mm-hmm.
So there is going to be something for SuperCoats down the road. And it's things like that yeah, I dive completely into a project. I do the entire research, not just on the product. I do it on the team. Like I'm now connected to probably 25 of Zed Run and Virtual Human Studios on LinkedIn, and can then, when they make an announcement there about a new hire or something like that, I'm 2 weeks ahead of when they pump it out on Twitter or Discord.
Right.
And I'm already connected to that person and have a direct one-to-one communication channel if I try and exploit it.
So if someone's looking into a new project or something that they're interested in, either inside the NFT space or not, where's a good place to start asking questions, or what's a good question asking model, so that way they can start developing research skills to make educated decisions on something that they want to participate in?
So my first thing would be, does it hit your passion? Because any of these projects you're going to be devoting a lot of time to. Whether it's Zed, whether it's the Red Village, whether it's my upcoming Dragon project, whether it was my Van Gogh tees, whatever you're going to ape into is going to take a lot of your time and energy. So it better be something you're passionate about. I'm not going to ape into a Barbie doll project because I don't give two figs for Barbies, and neither did my daughter, So that's not going to pique my passion. So the first thing is passion. It's got to be in the passion zone. Otherwise, it's just a waste of your energy and your time. Why would you do something you're not passionate about when there are going to be things you're going to be passionate about? You won't hold value in those things. You'll be willing to cut bait on them a lot sooner, and lose money sooner. Mm-hmm. And where maybe you need to be long term in something for it to truly hit its profitability. Well, if you're passionate about it, you're going to stick with it. The second thing I'd look at is, what are the founding principles of this project? So many of these projects, it's all about, oh yeah, well, we're going to have utility and we're going to have these gaming and we're going to have, okay, am I getting in this project because I need a new video game in my life? And this hits my passion? Then maybe, yeah, this is something to follow. I'm in Dino Monks. Dino Monks is not a profitable project. If
Right.
you bought a Dino Monk on Mint Day, when I was sitting in their Discord telling everybody, quit paying gas fees, quit paying your exorbitant gas fees. Wait, there's plenty to go around. Don't spend thousands in gas. Now the people that did that, they lost tons in gas fees, and they're not able to reclaim that. But the point in Dino Monks wasn't about a quick flip.
Right.
The point in Dino Monks was about the mental health resources that you would gain access to as part of the community. I grew up in foster care and children's homes with plenty of people that had disabilities, emotional and physical and mental. And so that struck a chord to me. I wanted to be involved. I couldn't afford to mint on Ethereum. I don't own Ethereum. I own wrapped Ethereum. That's where I play. Gas fee free kind of zones.
Mm-hmm.
And so to me, that was a project I was passionate enough about to even be involved in with my time without owning a Dino Monk. I was so passionate and involved, I was actually given a Dino Monk by somebody.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And so to me, those are the types of projects that I think you should be looking at is, where is my benefit going to come? excuse me, versus my time and effort. And yeah, it would be great to be able to do a quick flip, but when do you know when to sell out on those? You know, when is the peak point? And so all of those things come into play. Any project I do, I want to be able to feel comfortable holding long term. I want to be able to hold it for years to come, because that's where the real value play is when you're dealing with a small bag like I deal with. You know, and so passion first, purpose second. What's the purpose of the project? And then the third for me is the team involved. And why are they there? What is their reason for doing this? Is this their passion? Is this their profession? Is this something that when push comes to shove, they're going to be putting themselves completely out there? And so those are my first criteria before I'll even do a deep dive into a project. It's got to hit my passion. It's got to be something that I'm willing to devote my energy and time to, that I want to be involved with long term, in the purpose behind it, and then the people involved in it. Because if you get the purpose and the people proper, it's going to have legs. It's going to gain, because you're going to have people that are dedicated to it, that aren't going to get their feelings hurt because they had a slow minting day and decide that they're going to give up on the entire project. You know, I've seen a few of those where, yeah, you've got a Discord, you've been shilling for 4 months, and because you had a week where the market was really bad and you're not selling out, you're going to give up on it. You know, I don't want to be involved in people and projects like that. So that's what I have to find first, is the people and the project and the purpose.
Sounds like pretty good criteria. So what happened, or do you know what happened with your hack and your horses? Yeah.
So it's a bit convoluted. I got into this space doing research for an art project for the Human Anatomy Project, an NFT project that will be given to the Human Anatomy Project to donate to their donors, to get as rewards, to their donors. And so when I'm first learning about setting up a store to sell NFTs, I, of course, am in the Discords for Mintable and Rareable and OpenSea, and asking questions. And this was before everybody was really hearing about the OpenSea, or about the Discord fake mods. And so I got fake modded, and was, even though I've been in the computer industry since the Commodore 64, I wasn't in the NFT space. Perfectly used to having to deal with tech support to walk someone through a problem they're having, and ended up sharing my QR code by doing a mobile sync while I was on a video chat. And didn't even know back then that was a problem.
Right.
I didn't have anything in my account, so they didn't do anything to me. They came back a few months later, and then they emptied me out. Well, wow. Started to. But because, I have notifications on, and I happened to be up late at night, and happened to have my phone in front of me, and happened to see a notification come through saying that my Jockey Club Classic token had sold, and I knew I didn't post it because the Jockey Club Classic still was a few days away, I was immediately getting an OpenSea up and locked OpenSea down. But that they still managed to get 3 out of my 14 horses out of there. And then all my crypto.
Wow.
They sent all of that out. Because I couldn't lock down MetaMask, I was only locking down OpenSea. Well, I was still in panic mode because I, again, knew and don't know what's going on. I know I've just been hacked. I know I just lost a couple of Genesis horses in the hack. And so I'm panicking and trying to get my horses out of my stable, out of this hacked account. And so I send them through the Zed Run stable tool. Under settings, I send them to a secondary stable. I set up a new stable and sent them there through that. That broke them. Because MetaMask was locked down, or OpenSea was locked down, when I sent those assets out through the third-party element, something broke in them. And you could no longer bid on them. You could no longer, I could no longer list them for sale. The buttons were just gone. Transfer was gone. I couldn't do any of that from inside of OpenSea. So then I reach out to Zed and to OpenSea, and instead of fixing it, they marked my horses as suspicious.
That's great for the brand.
Yeah. And so now not only can I not take bids on them and cannot list them for sale, now anybody that even would be willing to buy it through a, you send me the money, I'll send you the horse deal, would now have it listed as this is a suspicious. This has been listed for suspicious activity. So it broke those 11 horses even further. And through all my interactions with Zed, basically was told there's nothing they can do. That I got to solve it with OpenSea. And OpenSea has not been able to get me fixed yet. But the communication pathways there are rare. Like, oh, we made some updates. This should fix your stuff. Let us know if it's not. Respond to this email. Okay, it's still broken. Nothing. Crickets. Okay. So, I have 11 horses that constitute the majority of my financial investment in Zed that are all broken. And while I would like to move on from a couple of them that are good, valuable horses that I would have liked to have been able to flip into some Genesis, I can't. So I have, I think, 5 horses now out of my 16 that I have left, because when I announced that I was backing away, I gave a few to Bot Lady to give to raffle off as a fundraiser for a service member that's on hospice and needed money, who actually just had a stroke the other day as well and could definitely use the help. I gave away another horse to people that own Van Gogh originals, because I'm always doing stuff for the Van Gogh holders. And so now I'm down to 16 from the 22 that I had, 24 that I had at my highest point, and 11 of those are broken. So I have 5 horses I can play with. I mean, they can all still race, they can all still breed. The only thing that's broken about them is my ability to sell them. So I just claim I'm diamond hoofed in those 11 horses, and I'm good with that, because they're pretty much all slate grays. That and Crown Prince, who's like a Z17, but half his points are Nakamoto Genesis. So,
well, let's you brought up Van Gogh again. So, What exactly was the Van Gogh project? Because I didn't understand most of it in the beginning until it was too late.
Yeah, and that was by design.
Yeah.
As I said, eventually there will be a 10,000 piece collection that's being given to the Human Anatomy Project. They aren't ready to hand those out as to their donors. They just got their 501(c) last month. So, I developed a new CT scan technology that's going to help change medicine as we understand it. I lost my stepmother to cancer that they couldn't see on a CT scan. When that happened, I said, okay, I've got it. It's there. Why can't they see it? So I researched the technology, traced it all the way back to Nikola Tesla and the invention of X-ray, then worked forward through every innovation that's been made in the pipeline, and then figured out why they couldn't see my stepmom's cancer. And I fixed that. Well, me fixing that doesn't do the community really any good or the world any good. So we created a company to get that technology out there through the Human Anatomy Project. And so when I was trying to look at different ways to do funding to help get the Human Anatomy project off the ground, I came across the NFT space in another project I was working on. I was like, oh, I could probably do something here and make some art and let them give those away to as rewards. And so the software that I use to do this is artificial intelligence neural networks. And it takes text input from a human or images from an input or combinations of those things, and then it pumps out an image. And so the AI systems that went into this, well, there was trying to think of it, Dolly, Da Vinci. That's the one. So the text, there's an AI engine out there called Da Vinci that you can type in text, and it'll send it back to you with more flowery, prettier version kind of thing. And so it was a text enhancement almost AI that eventually even you could train it to become a chatbot. And you could even have a chatbot with an attitude if you had properly trained it what kind of responses you wanted it to give by giving it examples. And then there was a text to image converter called Dolly, spelled DALL-E, kind of a play on Wally and Salvador Dali. And so my concept and why I was given beta access into their software program was to be able to use this whole process of a human inputting something into Da Vinci that's then passed to Dolly and then would be passed out and turned into an NFT. And so I called that process Van Goghty, just to kind of stay with the theme of how they were doing it. And I changed the spelling to be a goat, G-O-A-T, and so Van Goghty was born. And so then I wanted to get a little bit of income from that to help fund a couple of other foundational pieces of this. But in order to do that, I had to release some art. I didn't want to do it all if it wasn't going to be successful, if nobody liked it. I didn't want to do a website, do a Discord server, and create a Twitter account and stuff like that. So I was like, you know what? I'm just going to release these ones here very cheaply, because the ones that the Human Anatomy Project are going to be giving away, those are going to be to, donors of like $10,000, $50,000 donor levels that they'll be giving out the Van Goghties. I wanted to get these out there to the community that I was part of, that had embraced me. When I came into this game, people like MJ were just so welcoming and so helpful. And the guys that Know Your Horses and Sean versus All and Pony Plug, everybody was so welcoming. I was like, you know what? I'm going to reward this community that I'm part of. And I'm always typing, if you know, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because, I don't do a lot of marketing. I don't do any of that. I'd stealth attack a lot of the stuff I've been doing with the Van Goghties to really reward the people that were the original backers. And that's why with my my next project, every Van Goghty original holder is getting whitelisted into the project. And that's just when the Van Goghty version 2s come out next month. Every Van Goghty original holder gets a free Van Goghty version 2. Because that was really my no. You guys are the founders. You guys are the ones that gave me the opportunity to move forward with all these other avenues of this. And I don't see many projects that really do that kind of rewarding. Other than Zed's tournaments for their Z1 owners.
Just had to sneak that one in there, didn't you?
Just had to throw a little smoke out there.
It's all right. I see what you're doing there. But so Van Goghty's the process, not the art itself.
Right.
Because I think that's the part that at least I know I was kind of confused about in the beginning.
Yeah, and that's because I like to think of Van Goghty as a noun, a verb, and because I've done collaborations now with people, and I will take their art, like the Dino Monks I did for a Halloween contest. I took one of their Dino Monks, I applied the Van Goghty process to that image, with text inputs, and that image is some of the inputs that I gave to the AI. And then what it spit out was a whole new piece of art. And so I can Van Gogh something. That's a process. It is a Van Gogh. Well, that's a noun. But I can also train other artists, which I've done, and they can then release under the brand. So it's a label. And as we move to wearables, which is one of our next steps, Van Gogh then becomes a brand label for these, excuse me, for other than the founder level ones. After the initial founder level members of it, again, a Van Gogh original line for the wearables. After that, all wearables are only going to be one of ones, just like my artwork. You know, my 10,000 piece collection for the Human Anatomy Project, all one of ones. My 1,000 whitelist people that for the Dragon Project, every whitelist is getting an NFT for their whitelist spot, and those are all one of one Van Gogh art pieces. You know, so even just you're going to be on the whitelist. You're still getting a Van Gogh. These are all one of ones, and that when I've collaborated with other projects and I've given them backgrounds to put behind their PFP project, it's with the stipulation these must be one of ones, and you need to property tag them with Van Gogh collab. So that, again, I'm creating that brand, that value, so that I can be the Louis Vuitton of the metaverse.
I like it.
We've got 2 plots in Decentraland. One's going to be a gallery. One is going to be a merch store. So there's a lot of those kinds of plans in there, and it was all because people believed in the Van Gogh to begin with, and were willing to spend more than they were, 0.05. Nobody has ever resold one for less than my minting cost. Right now, I think the cheapest you can find one is 4 times the minting cost, all the way on up to 5 ETH for these things. So the community, again, that project, what's the project, what's the purpose, what's the people? I wanted that foundational in mind. I still don't have a Discord server for the Van Gogh I still don't have a website for the Van Gogh but I sold out my collection.
Right.
I'm in spaces every day for Beluga Bay NFTs for Polygon projects, and I'm helping other people walk through. These are the processes. I see people that are selling beautiful art for 1/5 of what mine cost, and have 3 sales. And they've got a Discord server, and they've got a website, and I'm like, you need to build the passion. You need to build the community. Those things will happen if it's necessary, but you don't need to waste time and energy on these parts of the project. You need to focus on the people involved in your project. I instituted a burn mechanic in my release of my Van Gogh because I could tell there were parts that people just weren't all that thrilled about. Some of the art wasn't really hitting. Okay, well, let's get rid of those and make the other ones even rarer, so that if you did buy one of those that aren't as popular, well, instead of having 20 of that series in the original 100 Van Gogh now there's only 12. And so your Van Gogh original is even more rare than it was. And, doing things like that, actively being willing to assess your market, assess things, and make the changes are some of the things you have to do if you want to be profitable. And then my next project, of course, is the Dragon Project. The odds are it will be a year and a half before there's gameplay in my project at all. So I'm not going to create the whole website and everything. I've got the white paper, and once I'm finished with the white paper, the Van Gogh original holders that are already whitelisted will all get to see the white paper. And anybody else, well, I'm going to do a staggered form of whitelisting, which I'm going to have the first chunk will be 100 whitelists. Well, 77 of those slots immediately go to holders of Van Gogh T originals because that's how many Van Gogh T originals survived the burn.
Wow.
Out of the 100, 77 of them are held by somebody. So those 77 will automatically get a whitelist NFT. The other 23 will get sold for 0.01. Again, rewarding my believers. Once those are gone, I'll release the next 100 whitelist slots. Or sorry, 200. So there will be 300 by the end of the second round. But those will go for 0.02. So if you believed in the very beginning and bought a Van Gogh, and because you believed in me and my art, you're getting the whitelist for free. If you believe at this stage I should have gotten in on a project by this guy, you still are going to have a chance at 0.01 for just a few more people. But then the next group's going to be paying 0.02 for those 200. And then after that, it's going to be 0.03 for 300 people after the 200. And that's going to be 600. And then we'll go to 0.04 for 400. That'll be the last 1,000 people, or the first 1,000 people. And that'll be the only whitelists for this project that will have 10,000. And it's a Web3 play to earn game with just coming from a guy that's been there since the Commodore 64. My first game console was Super Pong 4, the 4-player edition of Pong.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I'm in my 40s.
I didn't even know that was a thing.
Yeah, I'm in my 40s. Gaming has been a huge part of my life. Technology has always been my life. I'm an advisor to NASA, to the U.S. Air Force. I've been a beta tester for MIT. I've been a speaker at MIT. I've been a beta tester for Google. I advise Fortune 500s all around the world on mixed reality. I've been in the mixed reality space so long. My Twitter profile is @mixedrealityman. My LinkedIn profile is literally linkedin.com/in/mixed reality. I own the industry page as my profile page. That's, I know where the future of Web3 mixed gaming, where you have stuff you're doing on the computer and you have stuff that you're doing in AR and VR and MR. That's where the next level of all this is going to be. You're wearing the Atari hat. I've been pumping the Atari Alphaverse since they had a token, explaining to people, look, Atari gets it. They are in Decentraland. They are in the sandbox, and they're building their own. Very few things that I shill on my profile, but the Atari token was one of them. I'm like, look, y'all need to LP the Atari token. Don't even worry about it. Just get it there and sit it there and forget about it. Because not only is it usable right now in Decentraland and Sandbox, but when they open their own, and this was before they had announced the Alphaverse or anything like that, like, you're going to be positioned to catch in on all these people that are coming in and saying, oh, I better get some Atari token. And had people saying, oh, what land should I buy? Decentraland, Sandbox, what metaverse should I be getting into? I'm like, none. LP Atari and wait for the Alphaverse. Because that's where we're moving to. So my game is being designed with that in mind. With, yes, there will be portions that you will play on your mobile phone. There will be portions that you'll be playing in a desktop environment. But there will also be portions that you can play in virtual reality. And if any of those gameplay styles aren't for you, you can pay somebody else to do it. You're going to be a dragon trainer that's really good at doing the dragon training mini games. Maybe I have a huge stable. Maybe I'm the arbitrage or one of these other huge stables of the dragon world. I'm going to outsource that to you, Axie Infinity style, to where you're training my animals or working my fields or whatever, and you're getting paid for it. And so all of a sudden, the Philippines has a whole nother income game for them. That's the kind of stuff that projects need to be building towards, is that cross-platform gameplay, multiple ways of playing the game. Because right now, Zed has turned into a monster racing game. It's no longer really a breeding game. It's no longer, that beautiful mix of stable management and ownership. It's no, buy the best horse you can and be a monster. Now it's going to change. They'll fix that, but I prefer to design from the beginning, with those kind of outcomes in mind. That this is we need built-in checks and balances on these systems to ensure an equitable experience for everyone. I played World of Warcraft for years. I bought gold from Chinese gold farmers. I've sold gold to Chinese gold farmers. I've sold items on eBay. Yeah. I've been in this NFT style game space for decades. So I come at it all from that point of view, and I realize what is needed. And so that's what I'm going to build. And that's just the way I've always been. I never even went to high school, not even a single day. Wow. As I mentioned earlier, I grew up in foster care and children's homes. At the age of 16, I became an emancipated adult with a GED and a high school equivalency, and I never looked back. But I never even attended a single day of the 9th grade. I have built whatever I've needed anytime I've ever needed it. I learn what I need to learn, or I find what I need to find of people that have learned what I need them to learn. And that's what I've done with this. I'm working with, okay, here's the examples of all the research I've done in gaming for 3 decades minimum. I'm in my 40s, mid 40s. So, I've probably been gaming for 40 years. I've seen the best of things. I've seen the worst of things. I remember going to coffee shop or computer shops, the internet cafes, to play Duke Nukem and stuff like that. So I know where people are willing to spend their money, why they're happy when they do spend their money in the gaming world, how to provide value. And I'm going to bring all that to my next project.
Do we have a timeline on the next project?
So in December will be the release of the first 100 whitelist location NFTs, and then at that point it becomes community. Because a lot of the decisions that I want to make, I want to be based on the community's choice of what we're going to be doing there. So right down to the platform. Which is it going to be? Solano? Is it going to be Polygon? Is it going to be Cardano? What's the underlying layer that's going to be handling all the transactions that go on, the microtransactions of the game? Because it can't be in an Ethereum game. I'm fine with Polygon, but I'm never consider myself the smartest guy in the room. I'm always wanting to hear everybody else's input. And if, as part of the group that comes in the early stages, I get 4 game devs that are in there because they're excited about the artwork and the idea. And they're like, yeah, man, we can jump in on this, but we really work on Cardano. I don't want to have to change my roadmap and say, oh, yes, we're dropping Polygon, move to Cardano. It's really about, okay, here are the gameplay stages. So depending upon what experience I want to put out there, I could have a game out there next year. Even if it's just some of the mini game aspect levels of it. But the point in my project is we're building worlds. So a little sneak pre, I'm not going to talk about this much anywhere else other than right here, right now on your show. Minting or having one of these whitelists will give you a Dragon's Den. The Dragon's Den is the equivalent of owning your own planet. That is your empire. Your dragon's den opens that up for you.
You can't see it, but I have goosebumps right now.
Yeah, your dragon's den. Well, here, let me just pull up in here my little Git book that I got going on, and read you my first part of my "What is the Dragon's Den?" A community-owned and community-driven game where ownership means you have a say in how it is developed. In the world of Pendrag, there are dragons of many kinds. Some work, some breed, some fight, some race on the ground, some race through the air, and some eventually leave their world to conquer uncharted realms and set up new kingdoms. What kind of dragon will you have? The Dragon's Den is where your journey will start. An adventurer with no money, no weapons, no friends, and no real prospects. You haven't eaten in 2 days, and hunger has driven you into a deep forest rumored to have treasures and dangers alike. After encountering a small stream of clean running water that feels like pure ice crystals to your parched throat, you decide to follow it upstream towards the sound of a waterfall. As you search the stream for a fish or a frog or any other source of food, you start to hear the sound of a person in great distress. The moans of pain grow louder as you approach the waterfall. There by the edge of the crystal clear waters lay a bleeding knight in dented armor, thrashing about in pain. Upon seeing you, he points to a sack near his feet and collapses either unconscious or maybe dead. So that's the intro, kind of scroll paper kind of thing that would be sitting there on the back of the video game if it was old school box days. And then the journey you will embark on has many paths and many final destinations. Here you will learn about the world that you and the dragons inhabit. All journeys must start somewhere, and yours will start with minting a dragon's den. The dragon's den is the beginning location of your empire, an empire that will be built by your citizens, specialists, and of course your dragons. The dragon's den will provide you with your first dragon's egg, your first specialist, and will be the foundation of your castle. And so not only is it going to be Web3, but I want, like, Centroboss has their wizard project.
Yep.
I want my project to be, if you own a Centroboss wizard, you can use that as a specialist in our game and get bonuses based on the fact that you own a wizard from Centroboss. I want you to be able to rent and loan your specialists or your dragons out to other empires. So it's a combination of so many different elements from so many different games that will come into this. There's multiple kinds of dragons. There's fighter dragons. Well, fighter dragons can enter actual dragon fights. There's going to be actual dragon fighting. There's also dragon racing. Now imagine if in dragon racing you were able to ride the back of your dragon in VR during that race. Imagine if in a dragon fight you were able to be in VR courtside, ringside for that dragon fight. These are all possible. Using voice input in VR, you can even coach your dragon. The capabilities are all there. Nobody's Frankensteined all this stuff together. That's what I specialize in. My title at the company I own of BT Systems is Chief Rainbow Maker. Because I'll see a piece of technology here, a piece of technology there, and something over here, and know that if I throw these things together, I can make a rainbow. And so that's what I do. We're actually pretty close to opening up our Rainbow Lab in Las Vegas, which is literally going to be just an incubator tank to take all these different projects that I've come up with over the years and put teams on them. I have gold separation systems that work all the way down to 100 microns, or actually in the computer simulation, they've worked all the way down to 20 microns. I've got the CT scan technology. I've got all my work in mixed reality. I've got spatial environments where you're actually, basically the holodeck. where you're using projection mapping and the equivalent of the Kinect, the Xbox Kinect, only much more modern versions, Kinect for Azure and pieces like that, to actually make interactive environments for resorts. So yeah, we're talking Minority Report stuff is kind of where I reside, the technology I work on. And I want to bring all that in a way that nobody has done before, but I keep getting sick and tired of wishing somebody would, so I'm going to just build it myself. And if I get enough other like-minded people involved, well, then it pays for the development. Because I've got dev houses that are just waiting for me to say, yes, you can have this project or you can have this project. They hit me up all week long. I've got hardware. I've got 3D 360 4K camcorders. I get 2 of those. I didn't buy those. Those were sent to me by the technology companies saying, hey, use these, see what you can do with it, give us a review. And then I get to keep the hardware.
Not a bad gig.
No, but that's I've existed in this mixed reality space. I understand that we are going to be bridging the gaming universe that we all grew up with and the real world Niantic Pokemon Go style gaming. That is all coming together now. And if you combine that with the NFT aspect of ownership and DAO systems, you've got something that nobody, not even the Red Village or Zed or Axie or anybody like that has.
Yeah. So what started, I'm trying to think of how I want to phrase this question. So you completely bypassed high school. You grew up in not a standard living situation. Where did you begin getting these audacious ideas of just going out and doing it your own way? Or like, where did you see it? Where did you witness it? How did you start thinking that way? Because most people just don't pick up on that, let alone in a situation different than most.
I spent about 5 years of my life homeless after becoming an emancipated adult. The state doesn't care about you anymore. They're not on the hook for you, so they don't worry about it. And so I spent years where I was able to get whatever I could get by any means necessary. I figured out where I was going to sleep every night by going to the bar and finding someone that didn't want to be alone. Bars are full of people that don't want to be alone. That's why they're in a bar. And so it was, okay, where's the party going to be tonight? Where's the after party going to be that I can pass out on a couch somewhere? And maybe if I'm really lucky, get hooked up with a shower in the morning. So that trained me to look for opportunity, to see potential. And then when you have to do it to survive, you get the confidence. You get that independence of knowing that, no, if I decide I'm going to do this, I'm going to be able to do this because I have. There's no real task or project I've been tasked with that if at the beginning I said, yeah, I see something here that I couldn't dive in and find the pathway to get it done. And my brain doesn't work like most people. My wife likes to say that I Tony Stark stuff because I can do a dive in on a really good white paper and come away with enough understanding to be able to talk to an expert on that subject and not feel like an idiot while I do it.
Yeah.
I don't work with the algorithms for any of the stuff that I do, but I understand the process of what's going on enough that I can say, no, I need it to be doing this or I need it to be doing that. And so I'm really, really good at understanding things on high levels and translating that into its basics or its components to where it's something I can play with and make changes to or tweak a little bit. I'd say it's just been survival taught me that skill.
Is there anything you can think of for somebody who hasn't had to go through those struggles to create a synthetic survival mindset, or a way to develop a thought process to kind of learn how to seize things more quickly like that? Because it's extremely rare. And I
Yeah,
know a lot of people have aspirations, but then they kind of miss out on the execution, or at least the even the study aspect of it, myself included.
yeah. Like if you do things with the attitude of your survival is at stake, you'd be surprised how much uh, extra stuff goes on up here.
Hmm.
When your brain is in survival mode, you start getting a lot more brain power.
Yeah.
You start noticing the minute details, the things that are different, or that just will start to glow.
Yeah.
But so I'd say, as always, though, it only works for stuff I'm passionate about, something that I have a passion for. I The one area of school, I was one of those kids that never did homework but would ace every test I took. The one area of school, though, that I had the worst trouble with was in diagramming sentences. I never got it, never understood it, never had any passion for it. I got your dangling participle right here, teach. But so even to this day, I cannot make myself sit down and learn that.
Yeah.
So you have to have passion for whatever it is you're going to apply yourself to. When I came up with gold separation technology, it was because my daughter wanted to go camping. And I was like, okay, well, what do you do when you go camping? You go fishing? Well, I've been deep sea fishing. And once you cut tuna, catching trout is a little boring. And so I was like, what else do you do when you go camping? You could go panning for gold. Okay, well, if I'm going to do that, boom, I dove in. I was like, okay, well, how do you pan for gold? What's the physics involved in finding gold in a stream? And through the deep dive, do we even have gold in the rivers near me, or where am I going to need to go to where we have a chance of getting this? Is there any products that have been developed to apply physics to make this easier for me than just scoop and swirl and hope for the best, and so I did all the deep dive into that. And in the process of that, the physics side of it paired with other research I'd done in another project, and I was able to develop the gold separation technology.
Wow. All right. Well, I want to be respectful of your time, but real quick, can you draw the lines for everybody, the difference between AR, VR, and MR? Because I know
I love that. Easy to do for me.
Great.
So VR is real simple. It's the Matrix. Everywhere you look, every direction you look, it's all digital. It's all virtual.
Okay.
That's virtual reality. Augmented reality is when you have the real world and you have digital content overlaid on top of the real world. Now, mixed reality is when occlusion takes the real world into consideration. So instead of this little digital rabbit that's running around my living room, if it runs behind the couch in augmented reality, it's still in front of the couch. The couch is not going to occlude that digital item. In mixed reality, the rabbit runs behind the couch. I can't see the rabbit anymore, but if I walk around the couch, there's the rabbit.
Wow.
That's mixed reality. So when you have real world occluding the digital item in space, that's your mixed reality. Otherwise, it's just augmented reality. It's overlaid on top of the real world. So if the rabbit's supposed to run behind the couch, but the couch isn't occluding the rabbit's occluding the couch, well, that's augmented reality, not mixed reality.
I gotcha.
That's
real simple to follow.
And XR just means we don't know what the fuck to call it, and we don't know what we're talking about usually. They're just trying to use the variable X for all realities. We don't even know. Real world, mixed reality, we don't even know.
Is there a good place that people can start going down this rabbit hole on their own if they want to learn more about the technology and how it's growing?
There's a couple of people I would recommend following. Go to LinkedIn and follow Alan Smithson, who owns a company called Metaverse, Metavrse. And, this guy propagates more stuff in this space than anybody else out there. And his shares are epic, every one of them. And the other person would be Kathy Hakel, Cathy. Hakel is HA. She's one of my followers. Follow me, and I tweet out her stuff every once in a while. But that's the godfather and the godmother of XR, of the mixed realities, the virtual realities, all that. They are the people that are not just making the content and sharing the content, but are so far deep into it that anybody that hopes to be successful asks them for their opinion, kind of people. And so it's following them makes you aware of stuff 3 years before the rest of the world. If you're wanting to get into making that kind of stuff, then the easiest spot to start with that stuff is Unity 3D. There's plenty of tutorials. It's free software, and you can get out there and start making silly, stupid stuff, and eventually you'll be making legendary level content.
Okay.
The space is so new, and then the interaction, the Web3, understanding Web3. If people really want to get into what's next in this world, what's going to be the next level of technology and interaction and engagement, Web3 is going to be the decentralized app ecosystem. That's where everything will reside and engage and interact. And when you talk about having different NFT projects that can interoperate between each other, to where you can bring your wizard into the dragon project, or your dragon into a wizard project, or things like that, where your NFTs have cross-platform abilities, that's Web3. And if you want to help make that happen, it's early enough. Jumping into Web3 right now, 2 years from now, you're making 60 to 6 figures, with no experience, because you have the knowledge. That's been my thing. I have no degree. And yet I'm an advisor to Coastal Carolina University's College of Science and their athletics program. And Coastal's actually been in discussions with me that I may be getting an honorary degree from them because of all the projects that I've helped them with over time. Having the skills is more important than having a sheet of paper in today's world. We are finally to that point where, I don't care that your daddy got you into Stanford, and because you were on this team, they passed you along, and so you graduated with a beautiful degree, or you got an Ivy League degree. The question is now, do you have the skills to pay the bills? When your interview is no longer about your resume, and it's now about your ability to solve the problem that they put in front of you, and they're going to look at your code, and they're going to see how you went about that solution that you came up with to their problem that they presented you with. It doesn't matter if you have a degree anymore. It matters, can you do it? And right now you can learn how to do this stuff for free on YouTube. And there's no software cost to get started. There's just time investment. So if it's a passion for you and you want to do this stuff, or this stuff is exciting to you, then that's what you got to do. You got to jump in, and you got to learn, and you got to do, and you got to make things, and you got to break things.
I think a lot of people are trained to not break things, and that's where I was always told never break anything growing up. I got in so much trouble if I did, because we didn't have a lot. So I know for myself, that's kind of a hurdle, trying to go into things knowing that it's not going to work out.
Now, I still come from the use it up, wear it out, make it yourself, or do without school. that philosophy there will get you pretty far as well. But in the space of computers and learning, you've got to break it. You've got to break it, and you've got to know that it's going to get broken, and that you're going to lose 3 weeks worth of work, and those frustrations are going to come, and that's what separates the people that are going to make it, is who's got the effort to get back up again, who's got the drive to seek out someone to explain what they don't understand. I have a project I really want to do for one specific Van Gogh original holder. And I've been on a 2-month dive into how to make this one solution possible to make this one piece of art for this one person. But it's important enough to me that I'm going to spend that time, that I spend those hours doing the reading, that I spend those hours speaking with someone. I can't help the people that aren't willing to do that. The people that aren't willing to jump in there and say, I'm here, I'm present, and I'm doing it. I'm screwing up every single time I do. I don't care. I want someone that's willing to put in the effort, that's willing to put in the time to learn. Those people, I'll give you 2 hours a day if I got it. I'll talk to you for an hour while I drive. I'll spend an extra 15 minutes at night doing my own research to answer a question that I didn't know the answer to. So, always love helping people too. That's just part of who I am. The only reason where I am today is because people were there for me. Took me in, adopted me, made me part of their family, when I was in my 20s.
Yeah. Where can everybody connect with you on the internet?
At Mixed Reality Man is the easiest way. If you follow me, I follow back. That's literally the easiest way to find me. I am on LinkedIn. There, I am a much more professional individual on LinkedIn. On Twitter, I am me with no apologies and no shame. And the worst side of me is Darth Talon usually. But
as it should be.
Yes. But yeah, so anybody definitely always connect. Every day just about I pop into Twitter Spaces for Beluga Bay NFT to try and help other budding Polygon projects have faith and hope that they can do like I did. I mean, I've been in the NFT space since August. I sold 1.7 Ethereum worth of art.
Wow.
That was no training, no knowledge before I got into the space. Just jumped in. No Twitter account devoted to it, no website, no Discord. It can be done, and it's just understanding where your effort is best placed. I could have spent hours in Discord trying to manage my own Discord server for the Van Gogh project. I don't want to do that. It's nowhere in my passion, nowhere in my wheelhouse. So why would I put it in my roadmap? I didn't. I built my roadmap where I didn't have to have a Discord server. I didn't want to have to pay for a website for the project and website development. Well, I own VanGoghT.com, but that was for the artwork and being able to do that link up with the Human Anatomy project. So it's not even, it's got still, I think, got Van Gogh Stables, which was the first name of my stable before I got switched to the slate gray. So I didn't invest time or energy in things that I don't see a return on. Same reason why I step back from Zed right now. I still have all my horses in the breeding farm because there's profit in breeding, if anybody ever does. So that's worth the little investment and time that it takes to put my horses in there. Now, I still love all my content creators, so I still watch your stuff. Speaking of which, how is the stable on a budget doing?
Absolutely terrible. If you've been watching, which sounds like you have, Started with $550. Bought what I thought was a great horse at the time for 0.12 or 0.015, I think it was. It was 0.105.
0.115, I think it was.
Yeah. So roughly my entire budget plus enough left over to breed.
Breed and race a couple of races.
Yep. And 3 weeks after I purchased the horse, that horse dropped down to about a 0.02 value.
Yeah.
So the market shifted, and luckily breeding prices have changed since. So I think I have enough now to breed again and try. And I'm gonna have to kind of reevaluate what I'm doing with that stable and see if I can't turn it around. But like you said, I had to kind of step away from it because there's no forward momentum, and there's really no way to make an adjustment. So unfortunately, the stable got shut down for about a month, and now it's time to reevaluate. Now that they've made some changes, and see if I can do something. If not, it's going to stay down.
Yeah, it really. My biggest problem with those changes that they've made to Zed has been they don't preface these changes with information. They don't say, hey, look, in 2 weeks, there's going to be an adjustment to X. No, you could literally have bred a horse, and 2 minutes later, their breeding fee change announcement comes out, and you just wasted $400. Because if you had waited 2 more minutes, it would have been $400 cheaper to breed that horse.
Literally something that was being talked a lot about in the Discord server and on Twitter. I just bred a horse last weekend for $400. It would cost me $220 today.
Yeah,
like I would have waited
completely. And their communication. I always laugh when I'm sharing stuff from their Discord server on Twitter hours before they are. I understand if I beat them by a minute or two because they were doing it in Discord and they didn't do Twitter first. No problem. But when it's 3 hours later and I see Kenny or Jay or the official Zed Run account make a tweet about a change, I'm like, man, we've been talking about this for 2 hours now. Where y'all been?
Or how did the NASCAR announcement break on Yahoo 3 days before Zed told anybody?
How about the fact that I'm the one that shared the NASCAR video?
I remember. You sent it to me.
Yeah, when they did the video, and 3 days later, Zed still hadn't shared that video.
Yeah.
I'm like, so yeah, and I do try and be understanding of the growing pains, but I think that is probably one of my biggest complaints is that they don't seem to understand scaling. That when you scale this aspect of the game, if you don't scale this with it at the same time, you're going to have this mismatch. So, okay, we open back up breeding. Because that's when
a week early, mind you. They did communicate that, but then they're like, "Oh, by the way, it's open now."
Yeah, that's right. We're going to do it. We're going to do it. Oh yeah, by the way, it's now is when we're doing it.
Yeah.
So they opened back up breeding. Great. You opened a floodgate. So you don't have the user base to match that level of breeding that you just made available. So you've now flooded the horses. We went from 80 to 150 really friggin' fast.
And I think actually when breeding broke when they first launched it, and they said, hey, listen, we know it's broken, but you guys have been waiting so long. We don't want to completely shut it down. We're just going to work through it live as we go, was probably the best version of what I hope Zed would do in the future as far as problem solving. They communicated, we acknowledge it's broke. We're going to start working on it now. There might be some delays here and there. And as we work through this, we will keep you updated. And they did. And then after that's when it just went back downhill again.
And they did that, and then they didn't have a system in place to deal with the population versus the need. If you had at least done the breeding price change to reflect what your end game is according to your white paper, of these Genesis horses being these ultra valuable grandfather of all the bloodlines in the game.
Mm-hmm.
I understood. Yeah, you had to populate the game first. And so I understand that side of things. But you needed to set up a gradual change in price that could be based on population. When we reach this many horses in the ecosystem, fees will change to this. When we reach this point of saturation, fees will get to this. And to have tied things together more. That's what I mean by they have an unbalanced way of dealing with this stuff. When something pops at one side and explodes, it's not tailored to everything else. Right. So you get the floor drops, and then now all of a sudden you can buy a horse for 0.00 something.
Yeah.
I mean, 2 zeros to buy a horse? Something's broken.
Yeah. Especially when it costs significantly more than that to breed it, and people
are
offload that poorly.
Yeah, when you're only getting back $10 out of your $120 you spent to breed it, that and there's no burn mechanism. There's no way of saying, wow, I put Darth Talon on a horrible horse. And that's one of the best names in this. I've got Darthsidius, who's an okay racer.
Mm-hmm.
I would much prefer Darthsidius to be able to be on a better horse.
Right.
I would love the chance to burn that horse, but keep the name. No mechanic in there, no discussion in there, no, they don't even talk about that. But it's going to get to where you're going to have stables full of horses that you're buying just to keep the name, because eventually there will be one.
We hope so, at least.
Oh, there will. The mechanics will require it.
Yeah.
It just naming conventions and everything. It's going to eventually need a system like that. And then, yeah, I'm a big proponent of saying that today's glue is tomorrow's steeplechase champion. But let's be honest and let's be realistic. Unless Zed makes some significant change to the way they're doing things, it's not true.
Right.
The glue of today will be worthless glue tomorrow. And the fact that legendary horses can be glue is just unbelievable to me. When I first got in, my goal was to grab as many legendary as I could, because I'd be locking up 2 Genesis bloodlines for breeding.
Yeah. I still have quite a few of my own theories on that, but
I got Crown Prince, who had, like I said, 9 points of Genesis Nakamoto blood in him.
Right.
Mated with a buttery. Because it was during the glitch. And I was able to get a Genesis sire for $100. Hell yeah, I'm throwing my Genesis female at that thing.
Right.
And got me a Crown Prince, who was a horrible racer, but I don't care. I still have him because he's got so much Genesis Nakamoto blood in it that I think should have value down the road, but they don't seem to be doing anything with that. Ever since the Great Reset, when they basically nerfed bred horses to not be able to outperform the Z1s for a long time, it really kind of changed a lot of things.
Yeah.
But still bullish, still here, just not racing, not actively participating in tournaments, not even zombies. I did participate in the 100, but the Sprinter Cup and Marathon Cup and all those that are coming up, I'm not really excited or anything, because the racing structure. Why would I want to end up getting my horses all into Class 1 and then be stuck there?
Yeah.
I can't afford to throw hundreds of dollars at a horse to get it back down to competitive levels. So I can race them up there, get them stuck, and then not race, or I can leave them down here and not race. So I'll leave them down here and not race, and let them figure out what they're going to do next. And then I'll give that a week and let other people waste money figuring out if that's worth playing, and then I'll jump in and give it a try and see. I told everybody before both of these tournaments. That was the first thing I was telling everybody. You know, with the first one, when you could down class, I told everybody, look, all the monsters are down classing. Stay in class 2, class 3, class 2. Let them all down class and get into class 5. Then you can race without them in your way.
Mm-hmm.
And then I did that, and I got 37% on my 30 races. I knew that wasn't going to be enough, so I dove those free races all the way down to 0 class points. Of course, while I'm diving down, all the monsters were on their way up. So I got to miss out on them. And then I said, okay, now that that's done, I'm going to ride the cash races up and free races down. And I did that twice before they got rid of the downclassing in free races. But I told everybody else that I was doing it before I did it. I was like, look, this is what the system's set up for now. This is the way to be financially profitable during this tournament. I was like, but don't race the tournament expecting to qualify. That was 500 horses that were qualifying in that one. There are 140,000 horses in the ecosystem.
Right.
Darth Talon is a top 1% horse in this game, according to LIR. You know, when she was racing, she was a top 200 sprinter in the game. She was the number 1 slate gray sprinter in the game. And she wasn't going to make that tournament. And I knew that before the tournament started. I was telling everybody, look, unless you have an absolute monster, it's a trap.
Mm-hmm.
And then the payout structure isn't going to pay you. So you're wasting your time. So what they do, they took away the downclassing. So now everybody's just stuck up there. They got to fix a few things to make it to where people can play. And they got to do something to separate the monsters from the majorities.
Right.
They're paying the monsters, but they've been paying the monsters since day one. The only time they didn't pay the monsters was when the first fatigue came out, and you could only race 3 to 5 times a day total.
And I don't think that was fun for anybody.
No, it wasn't fun for anybody, and it killed but it did kill the monsters' profitability when they weren't sitting there able to race 50 races a day, where nobody else has a chance.
Right.
And we've hit an hour and 37 minutes now.
Yeah, that's a lot.
Yeah, sorry, I tend to be long-winded.
Oh, it's all right. I could do this all day. I don't want to take up too much of your time, and I want it to be digestible. So.
Well, I hope it's not too difficult to edit out.
No, I probably won't be editing much out anyways. There's a lot of gold here. I wasn't expecting to get so much, so I appreciate it.
Happy to it. And anybody out there that's watching or listening, I'm always willing to look at your horses, to give you my opinion or feedback, and tell you what I do. Because I pull up MJ Informatics, Hawku, Know Your Horses, Zed Run tools. Those are my go-tos. If anybody is out there listening and is not familiar with those, you definitely need to be using those. If you're not using those tools, you're not playing the same game that the rest of us are, and you stand no chance.
Exactly.
The Stack Nax add-on as well. Big shout out to Dan Shan for keeping that up and running. He didn't have to do that for us, but that's something I've been preaching about from the beginning. Is all these tools that we use, those aren't Zed tools. These are third-party tools. At any point in time, any of them can get tired of it and walk away, or could put themselves behind a paywall. You know, that changes the game again.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I don't understand why people out there aren't literally just kissing MJ's feet. Because out of everybody, MJ Informatics, his tool to me is the most powerful out of everything out there. If you truly understand how to use it.
Right.
And you can look at a horse and know that after a few races where you should be racing this guy. What dollar level, what price point, where's the down button, where's the money race, where's the tournament race, because Darth Talon's money race is the 1,000, but her tournament race is the 1,400. Because in the 1,400, she's going to come in top 4.
Mm-hmm.
May not be first as often, but she's up there. Whereas in the 1,000, she's first or last. So it knowing that about your horse. What if those things go away today? Do you have any of that data about your horses saved? Do you know each horse you have's preferred distance, preferred down button, everything? If you've only got a few horses, then yeah, maybe you do. But once you start breeding up and you get up to a dozen horses, you're like, oh, was that the 1,800 for this guy or the 2,000?
Guilty.
Yeah. Post-it notes next to your monitor, spreadsheets that you're then having to go and update. Oh, did I update the races from yesterday? All those things that people are taking for granted. You're not guaranteed these things.
Yep,
all it takes is a bad day for MJ for him to walk away, and you ain't using that tool anymore. Hawk-U, well, they just got that big influx, and they're branching out into things besides just horses. They're going to be doing chickens and riot racer cars and other things. So once their attention spread a little bit more thin, how quickly does it take when an update comes out to the game for it to be reflected in there? When Flames came out, it was literally minutes. And Know Your Horses and Hawk-U had an update in there for Flames.
Yeah, let's not talk about that one.
Just saying that those things happen like that. And now we don't have that if there's a change maybe. Maybe that response time isn't quite so fast. You got to be prepared and aware of these things and have a plan in place for how you deal with that if that happens. I know every single one of my horses' primary distance, every one of my horses' down distance. So if that happens, I'm at least not completely screwed. But too many people take all these tools for granted and don't provide. I mean, that's why we lost Stack Knacks to begin with, is nobody donated to Stack Knacks. So we finally said, well, screw it, I'll sell my code.
Yeah.
Zombie tournaments, we've got the Digital Breeders' Cup got broken. The Digital Breeders' Cup was already partnered up with Zombie, was ready to go, and then they made a change to the racing system to where you can't race out of your class anymore. And so their entire format for the Digital Breeders' Cup got screwed.
Right.
All these kinds of things happen, and it's beta. So you got to be agile and ready to roll with all this stuff and not put too much of your bag into one spot.
Right.
I know a couple of legendary breeding stables that are, one of them I spoke to was in tears because everything that they had for investment was in Zed and was in legendary horses. And when the new pricing came out, they were just crushed and literally cried on the phone with me because they're like, I've been here a long time. I've put so much into this, all my time, all my effort in this space, and they just completely squashed everything I had set up for. And I didn't want to sit there and tell them, well, you didn't diversify your plan enough. You put your, because, it happened to me as well. But too many people are just not aware that all of this can change in one day. And you've got to be prepared for the worst, hope for the best, expect the worst. It's going to be somewhere in between.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the only financial advice I give people. Hope for the best, expect the worst. It's usually somewhere in between.
It's pretty sound advice. So, All right. Well, I know we're using up a lot of your time, so we're gonna cut this here, and appreciate you coming on. We'll make sure all the links to everything we discussed is in the description and show notes, so that
I'll
way
make sure
everybody
I
can
get
find it.
those over to you.
Appreciate
And
it.
but thank you for you and your focus on small stables and new onboarding processes for those new players. Uh, you know, Sean versus All is a great time, and MJ is really good when you understand the game. Uh, but there's not enough of that. Hey, yeah, you're brand new, you don't have a big budget, you want to get into this. Let's look at some different possibilities of how you can do this. So I love that side of what you're doing. Keep it up.
I appreciate it. Thanks for coming on.
Definitely.